November 10th, 2015 is a date that will live in gaming history as one of the most anticipated sequels ever had been released. So many people have been looking forward to this game, and I was surprised I was able to procure a copy of it on launch day, a physical copy no less. I avoided review sites and my friends streaming this game just so that way I could experience all of it firsthand. Now, I've had this game for about a month now, and I've only played it for about 6 hours. That's not a whole lot of time, and while I do want to talk about Fallout 4, I have something to finish. Something that's been 5 years in the making. It's time, folks. It's time to finish StarCraft 2. StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void is the final chapter in this gigantic story that started back in 2010. Artanis, a fairly major character in StarCraft Brood War, is now the hierarch of what's left of the Protoss. With the Terrans fairly stable and the Zerg under control, so to speak, he now turns his attention to his own people and the goal he has had for his people since the original game: retaking the Protoss homeworld, Aiur, from the leftover feral Zerg overrunning the planet. It is an absolutely wonderful cinematic to look at, but before Blizzard wants to tell you that story, they've decided that they want to tell another story. Yep, there are missions that explain why certain events happen even before we get into the actual Legacy of the Void missions. These prologue missions focus around the Dark Prelate Zeratul and why he appeared randomly in different parts of the first 2 games. These missions were available if you pre-ordered the game, and I do recommend playing them if you want to understand Zeratul's role in all of this. The meat of the game is still your basic rock, paper, scissors RTS game. You manage resources, you build units, and you overwhelm the opposing force or whatever objective the mission throws at you. I've always looked at the single-player campaigns as one gigantic tutorial on how to get the basic mechanics on units and structure trees for multiplayer, and it's still the case here. Blizzard has tweaked and trimmed the game up over the years to make sure that it's as balanced as it can be. And so far, I think the results have paid off. And if you don't want to deal with any of that pesky single-player nonsense, all you have to do is retrain yourself in a very simple 3-stage setup for each playable race. It's like Blizzard thought of everything. I have to say that the folks making Legacy of the Void have really perfected the use of in-game graphics to tell their story. It's amazing to realize that the same graphics you see in the hub world are also the same for when you're tearing into your opponent. Granted, there are a few points where the pre-rendered cinematics are used, and they are fantastic. Overall, I can't help but be mesmerized by the whole look of the thing. Legacy of the Void is one of those games that did not disappoint in its core mechanics, storytelling, and presentation. Except when it did disappoint in its core mechanics, storytelling, and presentation. Remember when I said it's still your basic RTS? Well, if it ain't broke, why fix it, right? Well, that's the problem. The single-player campaign once again gives you access to units that even go back to Brood War, as well as new units like the Sentinel, which can replace the Zealot. Granted, I understand why these types of units are not in the multiplayer, but I really think it's more of a weird... I hate to use the term, but bait and switch for new players to come into the game, play the single player, and then not be able to switch up to the different units.
But that could just be me wanting to use the Dark Archon like I did way back in StarCraft Brood War. I mean, come on guys. Anybody remember making 3 bases at once?
I'm a bit reluctant to talk about this part, but Blizzard has always had exceptional storytelling, right up to the point where they end the game. Wings of Liberty, that had a great ending. Heart of the Swarm, very good ending. But technically, those games did not end StarCraft 2's story. Legacy of the Void? Well, the ending of the campaign requires that you play epilogue missions that tie up all the loose ends. And while the ending was nice, it wasn't the most satisfying thing in the world. I think Blizzard could have done way better than what was given to us.
You know, it was really hard for me to say that, but on the same token, I should have expected it. I mean, after all, Diablo 3's storyline was given away in its own achievement list. Anyway, a lot has happened since the beginning of all of this chaos. After 5 years, 3 boxes, and about 1 billion Zerg fragged, I can finally ask the question. Is StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void worth your cash?
Legacy of the Void is $40 for either physical or digital versions. Blizzard also has a digital deluxe edition going for $60, and the boxed collector's edition goes for about $80. Overall, I'm not sure it's worth the $40 price tag. It's kinda close, especially considering you get about 25 missions and the incredible multiplayer that has been perfected over the course of the game. But after spending money on the other 2 chapters of the game as well, I really feel like spending $40 on a standalone part of what is called StarCraft 2 isn't the right way to go.
The current incarnation of the StarCraft 2 Battle Chest only includes the first 2 games and probably won't integrate Legacy of the Void for quite some time. When that does happen, I might do a full StarCraft 2 overarch review just to see how the whole thing went after 5 years. In the meantime, though, I am going to get a hot drink and enjoy my special book that came in my special box. What? You didn't think I would go through this entire review and not mention the fact that I got the collector's edition?